Welcome everybody. The day we have been waiting The day we have been waiting for is finally here. Today is my special premiere launch day for the second batch of my personally designed Craftamo brushes. I'm just a little fish in a big pond, so everything we're celebrating today seems a little bit unreal, and I would be ungrateful if I didn't say it was thanks to all of you. Anyway, we have a lot of things that are going to be going on today, including these brushes going live in just a few minutes, as well as some exciting and exclusive sales and deals in honor of this day, which we will get to in just a minute. But the first order of business is a quick reminder that I will be watching this premiere video right along with you, so I can live chat with you as this is going on. So if you've been watching already, or if you're just tuning in, I'd love for you to type a quick message and shout out who I've got here with me. I would also love to hear if you decide to buy one of my brush sets today, so I can personally thank you. Now, really quickly, before we get into the video today, including a short introduction about these brushes within the box, I need to let you know the exact moment that these are going to be available for purchase. So you may have noticed down in the corner of the screen, I have set a timer for just 15 minutes. When that timer gets down to 0, then that is the big go moment. So help me keep an eye on the clock so we can get ready to celebrate that big go moment, grand opening live launch of the brushes together. All right, now today I have a super special step-by-step tutorial plan that I created specifically in honor of today's launch. Now this painting may be a little bit of a challenge for you, but I truly think you can do it. I personally think it looks harder than it actually is. It's really not so overwhelming when we break it up into little steps and small sections. So to help give you a head start with this piece as an exclusive gift for those of you watching the premiere today, I will be providing the outline for this amazing painting on my Etsy shop for a 50% discounted price, which is the best and lowest discount I can offer on my Etsy outlines. This outline will only be on this special sale tonight and tomorrow, so make sure you take advantage of this amazing deal so you can paint this stunning painting right along with me. Now, I really think that you'll enjoy this painting, and like I say, it's not as hard as it looks, but it is kind of a wow factor piece that you can definitely show off to your friends and family. Now, let me pull out the brushes from this set that we will need to create and paint this amazing piece of artwork. Here's my beautiful box, which has my artwork printed on the cover of it. The whole thing just turned out simply lovely. The inside of this is really just as good as the cover, and it includes an awesome card of my artwork in here, as well as some great information on the back side. Now, as you may have seen before, if you watched any of my detailed unboxing tutorials from a few months ago, where I go over all of the ins and outs of this brush set. This set contains 5 of my favorite and most used brushes. I've got a large number 10 round, a medium number 6 round, a 1/4 inch angle brush, a small number 3 round, and last but not least, a number 1 rigger. I just love everything about these, but I guess I am a teensy bit biased here because I did personally choose everything about these brushes, from the colors to the sizes to the measurements to even the way that the ferrule has been crimped onto the handles, as well as the snap of the bristles. So I guess it's not a wonder that these are now my favorite go-to brushes. If you would like to hear more about the ins and outs on all the exciting details about this brush set, then I do have a couple of tutorials that I can post links to in the description of this video if you're interested. They have a lot of great information on how these have been created and put together, as well as some of my favorite brush strokes to use with them, and even how to apply them to real-life paintings. Now, the good news is that this brush set will be on a special sale for the first week that these are live. Normally, these will sell for about $60, but for the first 7 days, starting with today, these will be available at a discounted price of only $55. But that's not all. In honor of this premiere and launch day, we will also be offering another 5% discount code on top of that sale price that will only be active during this live premiere. I will be announcing that code as soon as our timer reaches 0 and the brushes are officially live. So make sure you stick around for that if you want the best possible sale price for the set today. So while we wait for our timer countdown to get to 0, let's go ahead and get into this awesome painting tutorial for the day. Now here on my watercolor paper, I have already drawn on the outline lightly traced with a pencil. So once as you print out the outline from my Etsy shop, all you have to do is use a light table or a well-lit window in your house and simply trace it on here. Then besides our watercolor paper, we also need some clean water, a paper towel, and of course our watercolor paints. I am also going to tape my paper down with some artist tape to help with some of the warping. Then of course we need the brushes from the set, and there is a good chance we'll be able to use all of them at some point. So this is a great piece to break these brushes in with if you're just getting them for the first time today. Now we also need a little bit of masking fluid for this painting. You could do without if you need to and just paint around some of these areas that we're going to be masking off, but it really does make the painting process on this a little bit easier if you have it. When I use masking fluid on my paintings, I also like to pull out an old brush to use with it rather than one of my nicer, more expensive brushes, so I don't risk gumming up the bristles or ruining my nice brush. But I do like to put a little bit of liquid soap in the bristles, and that usually does help clean that fluid out pretty good later. But while we have this masking fluid and brush out and ready, let's go ahead and start this painting off with that. The first area we need to mask off is a little bit of a highlight right here on this glass vase. We will be painting a nice wash of dark blue on here, but we really want this spot to be able to stand out later. Next up, let's mask off a few of the flowers that we'll be painting around. Now I plan to paint a wash of green paint as well as any of the leaves surrounding the flowers in here, so I'm going to start masking off some of the small little flowers or hints of flowers first. A lot of these just kind of look like little blobs really. I'll zoom in here so that you can see exactly what I'm masking off though. After these small little flowers off to the left side are all masked off, then I will mask off this larger open flower right here in the center of the page. This is eventually going to be completely surrounded by greenery, and you can just paint that color right around it if you don't have the fluid. But it does make things a little faster and easier if you can mask this off. With this one, I'm also not masking off the entire flower either, just the outside edge is good enough. Moving on, I have a couple of small flowers off to this right side as well that we can mask off. And then after that, there is one more larger flower that we can mask off also. The thing with that one is that we really don't need to mask off the entire flower this time, just the bottom half where the greenery would be touching or overlapping the flower. So I will mask off the bottom half here, but leave the top half open. The last thing I'll mask off in this painting is the centers of the flowers. Really, this is just for these larger, more open-looking flowers that actually show the center area. I'm just dabbing in some dots of the masking fluid for this spot. If you're just tuning into this premiere video today, welcome. Just to catch you up onto what's going on, we're just working on a fun painting today in celebration of the second release of my exclusive Craftamo brushes. So keep an eye on that timer in the corner of the screen. We only have a few minutes left. All right, now we do need to take a few minutes and just let all of that fluid dry completely before we can paint over it. But while we wait, let's go ahead and rinse out the masking fluid brush really quickly, and then maybe we can mix up a few colors on our tray next. Let's start with a pretty and bright blue color for the glass vase. I'll pull out some ultramarine blue first. I love this color of blue. It's just so good for so many things. This is probably my absolute favorite go-to blue color. But to brighten it up just a little bit and make it a touch more vibrant, I am going to also add in just a touch of phthalo blue in here as well. Now, when mixing colors, it is always a good idea to test out your colors on a scrap piece of watercolor paper before painting it on the actual piece. This way you can make sure it looks just how you want it to. The next color I'll mix up really quick will be a darker shadow blue color that can work for the ground or the table that the vase is sitting on, as well as maybe some shadow areas within the vase later. This is going to be a mixture of Payne's gray with a little bit of ultramarine blue added in so that it's sort of a blue-gray color. I'm going to keep this on the lighter, more watered down side right now, but we'll probably make it more concentrated later on. I think my fluid is not quite dry yet, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and paint in the ground or the shadow area underneath the vase while we wait. I'll paint this wet on wet to help it look blended and soft. So using the number 10 or the number 6 round, whichever you prefer, take a little bit of clean water and paint the area underneath the vase. Then after it's nice and wet, let's take some of this light and watered down blue-gray color and start spreading that throughout this area. I kind of want the darkest spot to be right around the base of the vase here, and then I'll spread that color out from there. I am keeping this fairly light in value. I really just want a hint of this color. My focal point is going to be the bouquet. This is just going to help ground the piece as a whole. But while this is still wet, I am going to add just a touch more color right here around the base of the vase to create even more depth. But that's really all there is to that. Nothing too crazy here. So I think I'm ready to paint in the vase next, and my masking fluid does seem to be dry now. I may pull out my hairdryer really quick and speed up the drying time of this paint so that I can move on. There's a good chance this won't be the last time I use this too. All right, moving on to the vase next. Let's paint this using the wet on wet technique also. Now, I'll be honest with you, the vase here is probably the hardest part to paint on this entire piece. So if you can do this, then the rest will be a cinch. I've used my number 10 round to paint a wash of clean water on this large middle area of the vase. I'll leave the very top and the very bottom of the vase how they are for now. We'll come back to those in just a minute. But then after this is all wet, we'll take some of this lovely blue color that we mixed up earlier and we'll start adding that in around the outside edges of the vase first. This is where we want the darkest valued colors to be placed. Looks like we only have just a few minutes left for the moment that these brushes are going to be available for purchase. But in the meantime, in honor of this day, you can head over to my Etsy shop and get the outline for this painting at a 50% discount. This is an exclusive offer only for those of you watching this premiere tonight and tomorrow. So go ahead and get that and enjoy painting right along with me. Now that we've got this dark blue color placed in surrounding the edges, I'll just wet my brush a little bit, but there is still a little bit of residual blue color in the bristles here. And then I'll start spreading some light blue color throughout the center area of the vase. Very good. This looks really good. Now I would like to add some even darker color in here, so I'm going to freshen up and maybe even create a slightly more concentrated blue-gray color. Really, this is going to be more like a navy blue at this point. And I'll just take a touch of that nice dark blue and just in a few places add that into the edge of the vase while this paint is still wet. Now I'm kind of focusing this mostly in the corner areas with maybe a small touch of it on the sides here and there also. I really don't want a ton of this dark color. This is just going to add some extra dimension and shadow, but I really don't want it to take over the lovely bright blue that we already have on here either. So just use it sparingly. All right, I've been using the number 10 rounds so far, but I think I'll switch over to the number 6 now so that I can paint in these smaller areas along the top and the bottom of the vase next. Maybe I'll just paint this middle section of the top area first so we can let the part of the vase that we just painted have a chance to dry a little bit. But I'll paint this again with a little bit of water first. And I'm realizing I really probably should have masked off this little leaf that's overlapping the vase right here, but I didn't. So I'll just carefully paint around that. Then I'll take some of that light, bright blue and again paint this color, focusing it on the edges first, but also allowing it to bleed and blend into the water more in the center area also. All right, I'm just going to pop in here really quick and put a hold on everything that we're doing at the moment, because if you've been watching our countdown timer, you may have noticed we only have a few seconds left. So let's finish counting down this together. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Cue the confetti, people, because here is the moment we have all been waiting for. I am pleased to announce that this brush set is officially live and ready for purchase. So get ready for the special and exclusive discount code to get an extra 5% off the already on sale price for these brushes to get the best price possible today. So here we go. The 5% discount code is Liesl5. Now Liesl needs to be spelled in all capital letters, Liesl 5. You can find and purchase my brush set by simply going to the Craftamo website, www.craftamo.com, or I will also leave a direct product link to my brushes that will be listed in the description of this video. Again, that's Liesl 5, and as a quick reminder, this code is only active and usable while this premiere is live. That's not a ton of time, so make sure you take advantage of this deal if you are at all interested in these brushes. And also, let me know if you bought a set today in the live chat so I can personally thank you. Okay, this is all super exciting stuff. I will remind you of this sale again a little bit later on, especially for those who may be just tuning in. But until then, where were we? Let's get back to the painting demo. And don't worry if you get busy here and miss any part of this painting. You can always come back and watch it again later, or rewind or pause it if you need to. Now, while that is still wet, I'll take that dark navy blue and add in some shadow areas as well. In fact, it's okay if this upper part of the vase is a little bit darker in value overall, because this would be in the shadow from the flowers and the leaves up above. All right, great job. Let's let that dry a little bit and then just come back in here to the very bottom of the vase next and paint in a little strip of color down here. Again, with water first and then adding in the blue color. Now, I might try something a little bit different with this spot and see if I can create something of a highlight down here. So maybe I'll leave a portion of this left side remaining very light or even white in color, and then I'll paint in the darker blue tones more off to the right side. We'll just give this a try and see how it looks. All right, not too bad. I think I'll go ahead and pull out my hairdryer once again and finish drying up this spot so that I can finish painting the last few strips of color on this vase. But I do think this is going pretty good so far. Now these next few areas are pretty small, so I'll use the number 3 round for these next few sections. I think I'll try painting these first 2 sections the same as we've done before, with a little bit of water and then adding in the color next. Again, focusing it mostly around the edges. The trick here is to create some varying values so that these parts stand out just a little bit from the other part of the vase that it's sitting right next to. That looks pretty good. Let's finish off the bottom area of the vase now. I'm not exactly sure what to do with this part here, so I'm just going to be playing around with it a little bit. The idea will be the same as what we've already been doing, but I am going to sort of try to create a lighter or more highlighted area off to the left side of the vase, and then we'll make it darker on the right side. If you happen to just be tuning into this premiere video today, I just want to say welcome. I'm so happy you're here, and just so you know, the brush set is available for purchase now. So make sure you use the discount code Liesl5 to get an extra 5% off of the brush set. This code is only valid during the live premiere. Also, keep in mind that there is a limited number of these brushes. With my first batch, I had 300 sets available and they completely sold out with only 1 week. This time we actually created 500 sets, but I've had more than double that amount of people sign up to be notified when these are ready, so make sure you get yours while they are still in stock. I am also here to live chat with you today, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I think that turned out all right in the end. The vase has a really fun sort of transparent and glassy-like look to it, which is exactly what we want. And this was probably the hardest part to paint on this piece, so the rest of this painting really should go pretty smoothly. Now, I thought it would be fun to help emphasize this see-through glass appearance to paint some of the flower stems showing through the vase. So let's pull out some green colors and give that a try. I think I'd like to start with some sap green, and actually maybe I'll make 2 spots for this sap green color, and then we can darken one of them up using a little bit of Payne's gray. Now, I don't need this greenery to be very dark or very detailed. We kind of just want a hint of color here to give the idea that you can see through the vase. So using the number 6 round, I'll just use some extra water and spread the color out using some of the sap green as kind of a base color with maybe a little bit of darker sap green to create some shadow look here and there. But again, this really doesn't need to be too detailed. Great job. I like that little addition. It's kind of fun. While we have this green color out and ready, let's go ahead and move on to painting some of the greenery amongst the flowers. I'd like to start with just a wash of green color to fill in any potential gaps we might have where we're going to be painting in the specific leaves. I'll paint this wet on wet to help the paint flow a little bit better, so I'll start with some water here first. I think I'd like to just focus this space of background color right in the center here, sort of going around this open flower that we have right in the middle of the page. After I've got the water on here, then we can add in some sap green color next to fill in the space. Then while that green color is still wet, I'll throw a little bit of this darker green in here to add some extra dimension and value. Now, I do want to keep the edges of this space sort of soft so that we can easily transition to painting leaves over the top of it. So if you're seeing any hard lines starting to form, you can rinse or dry your brush out and use the damp brush to sort of soften the edge by smoothing or wiping out some of the color, or you can even just take a paper towel and dab at those hard edges a little bit. This is a great start though, but we do need to let this dry before painting on the rest of the greenery. So I think I'll pull out that hairdryer once again to speed up this drying process. All right, moving on to the rest of the greenery, I think I'll pull out some olive green to add in here and change things up a little bit. Now with the leaves that we are about to paint, you really can do this in any way that you like. You can paint them wet on wet if that's easier, but I might just try to do a wet on dry thing, throw some color on here, and then blend in some different greens as I go. You are welcome to use any combination of greens that you want or feel like looks good. I think for most of these, I'll try using a little bit of all of these green colors together. I'll start with a little bit of the olive green for more of the tips or the highlighted areas. Then I'll move on to the sap green next, blending that into the olive green a little bit. And then maybe I'll even fill out the rest of the leaf with the sap green. But then for a nice bit of shadow on each of these leaves, I'll add in some of that really dark sap green that we darkened up with the Payne's gray and let that blend into the regular sap green. This darker color will be focused more on the bottom or the base ends of the leaves. And at this point, I am really glad that I have some masking fluid on here. You can definitely go around these areas if you need to, but it is really nice to not have to worry about that right now. Then I can paint these colors on a little bit quicker, and it's really just not as tedious. If you're finding that it's hard to blend the colors wet on dry, then it is worth a try to wet the leaf first with a little bit of water and see if that helps the process at all. Also, just as a quick reminder, you can get the outline for this beautiful painting in my Etsy shop at a 50% discount tonight and tomorrow only. Also, don't forget that this brush set is also live and available for purchase and is limited in number. You can use the exclusive discount code Liesl5 to get an extra 5% off the already on sale brush price for today. However, this is only active and available while the premiere is live. So if you're interested at all in purchasing one of these limited time sets, now is the best possible deal you can get. So make sure you take advantage of these sales while they last. And I do have a direct link for this product in the description of this video if you're interested, or you can go to www.craftamo.com. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. Now, this is actually a good portion of these leaves done. We finished off all of the larger ones here. Now there are a few fun little leaves along some of the stem lines that I think the angle brush can handle very nicely. So I'll pull that out really quickly, load up some of this sap green color, and just paint some of these in pretty much with just one stroke of the brush. Now, I've taught how to do this in greater detail in past tutorials if you do need more instruction, but basically you hold the brush with the longer point facing downward, place the brush on the page, press down, and then pull straight out. This makes fast and easy little leaves. And I will point out, I'm not actually following the pencil lines exactly for this part either. That is just kind of a guide as to where I want the leaves to be. If you are having trouble using the angle brush for this, you are welcome to paint this with a round brush instead though. All right, let's pull out the number 3 round next and just quickly paint in the stems on some of these little flowers. Nothing too fancy here, just some thin lines of color. That is a good start. I'd like to pull out the rigger brush now to finish off the remainder of the stems or the lines left on the page by making them just a little bit more fine and thin. Again, nothing too complicated here. Just load up the rigger by rolling it around in some sap green color and then paint in any remaining stem lines you see. And of course, you can just follow along right with me if you'd like. I think we're actually just about done with the greenery, which is great because then we can move on to the more fun part of the painting, the flowers. I have a few little stem lines here that have some very small looking leaves attached to them, so I'm just going to finish off the look of these by painting in some tiny leaves using the number 3 round. And I probably will use some olive green for most of these leaf marks, but it might be nice to switch it up here and there with some sap green color too. Really, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. I like the addition of these little leaf branches. The small size of them really adds to the composition, and they look a little bit more free and fun compared to the larger leaves. If you happen to just be tuning into this premiere today, I just want to say welcome. I'm so happy you're here. And just so you know, the brush set is available for purchase now. So make sure you use the discount code Liesl5 to get an extra 5% off of this already on sale brush set. Now this code is only valid during this live premiere. So make sure you take advantage of that while it lasts. Okay, great job. You can pretty much be done with the greenery at this point, but if you feel up to adding just a touch more detail in here, then you can pull out the rigger once again and add in some thin vein lines along these larger open leaves. It kind of just finishes off the look. Awesome. I'm happy to say that now we have all the greenery done and we can move on to painting in the flowers, which is the highlight of the piece. So let's go ahead and pull off some of the masking fluid. I'll take off the fluid on the vase as well as the masking fluid on the flowers or surrounding any of the flowers. Now, I'm not taking off the fluid in the centers of the flowers though. We'll leave those little dots of fluid in the centers of the flowers. I usually like to use an eraser to help rub off the fluid, but that can take off some pencil lines that we might need. So if you need to, use your fingers to rub off the fluid in any of the areas that might still have some pencil marks that we still need. Now, really quickly, before we move on to painting in the flowers, I am going to take a little brush here that I can just scrub a little bit of clean water around this highlighted area on the vase. The edges here are really hard lines, and I'd like to just soften that up just a little bit. Like I say, I'll just scrub it with some clean water and a brush, and then I'll use a paper towel to dry it off. This just helps it not look quite so harsh. Now, if it seems too white, you can even add in just a small hint of a very light blue color to the area as well. Okay, now moving on to the flowers, let's mix up a pretty color to use on them. I thought about just using the same blue color that I used on the vase, but in the end I decided to take a risk and change it up a bit. So with this bright blue that's already on our tray, I actually added in a touch of dioxazine purple, making it more of a blue-violet color. And like I say, it's always a good idea to test out any colors you mix on a scrap piece of paper. I want the color to still look sort of blue so that it will tie in with the vase, but I do like that hint of purple too. It took me just a second to play around with the color and get it exactly how I wanted, but eventually I got it just right. I'll pull out the number 3 round first and just quickly paint in some of the smaller, more abstract looking flowers first. I'll take just a little bit of extra water and mix that into just the edge of this paint color so that I can kind of get a lighter version of this blue violet. I'll paint in the lighter base color first, then to give the flowers a bit of extra dimension, I'll take a touch of the darker blue violet and add that into the base area of these little flowers while the paint is still wet and let that spread out. I'll just continue in this fashion for all of these little flowers here. They're just kind of little and pretty accents and really not too complicated. With this flower, I did decide to not paint the center petal quite yet. Otherwise, it would have just created one big blob of color. But I'll come back into it and finish it off in just a minute. And this little flower doesn't have any masking fluid on it in the center area, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful here and just paint an open space for the center later. This is dry enough now. We can come back in here and paint this last little petal, but I am going to leave that space of white on this flower for that center area. Moving on to some of the flower stalks, I have two that sort of have buds sprouting from the stems. I'll just paint the colors in the same way here, with the lighter base color first, then with a touch of the dark color added later. Then for the top bud on the stalk, I'd like to try a little color blending. I'll paint the top area with the blue violet first, and then after that color is about halfway down on the bud, I'll take a touch of the sap green and add that to the bottom half, letting the colors bleed and blend together where they touch. While we work on this, just out of curiosity, I do have a quick question for you. I'm wondering if you enjoy listening to music while you paint, and what kind of music do you like to listen to, or do you prefer to paint more in the quiet solitude? I personally am a huge Neil Diamond fan. That is one of my absolute favorites to listen to, but I'd love to hear what you enjoy. Okay, this is looking really good. We are actually on the home stretch now. All that's left to paint are some of the larger flowers. I'll pull out the number 6 round for this, but the good news is that we are pretty much going to be painting these larger flowers in the same way as we did with the smaller ones. We'll paint the petals with a base layer of violet blue first, maybe a little bit lighter in value, and then while that paint is still wet, we'll add in the darker, more concentrated blue violet and let that blend in for some value change and a shadowed look. The biggest difference here is that you'll see me sort of skipping petals once in a while, and this is going to allow for some paint to dry before I paint petals that may be overlapping or touching, just so they won't bleed too much into each other. But let's go ahead and finish painting the rest of these larger petals and flowers, and then we're just about done. Also, just a quick reminder that there are a limited number of sets of these Craftamo brushes. Last time we had 300 sets. This time we're selling 500 sets, but I've had more than double that amount of people ask to be notified when these are available for purchase, so make sure you get one before these are out of stock. And don't forget to use the 5% discount code Liesl5 on your purchase today to get an extra 5% off of your set. right, great job. This has really turned out quite nice, and I am really liking the colors on this piece today. Now see, I told you it wasn't quite as hard as it looks. It takes a little bit of time, but when you break it down into sections, it is very doable. The very last thing that we need to do to this piece is take off that last little bit of masking fluid at the centers of the flowers. I'll just rub that off really quick, and then we can paint in this last bit of color. Let's take the number 3 round and maybe some Gamboge yellow paint and just dab in some dots of yellow color in these centers really quick, and then I think we can call this piece done. I hope you like this painting. It's been a lot of fun to paint so far, and I encourage you to give it a try. Even though it may look a little complex, it really is not as hard as it looks, and it's a great piece to show off your artistic talent to your family and friends. I guarantee they will love it. I will also just throw out there really quickly that this premiere is just about over. This is the last step to finishing this painting off, so if you haven't bought one of my Craftamo brush sets yet, then now is the time. And don't forget to use that 5% discount code to get the best price possible. Liesl 5. Well, friends, I think that's it for this special brush launch premiere. I just want to say thank you to all of you who have participated today. It's been such a joy to live chat with you through this process. Also, a huge thanks to those of you who've purchased a set of my Craftamo brushes. I can't wait for you to try them out, and I truly hope you enjoy using them just as much as I have. Now, if you weren't able to buy one of my brush sets while this premiere was live, no worries. These brushes will still be at a discounted price for the next 7 days. Just head over and check out the Craftamo website, www.craftamo.com, or you can just click the link in the description of this video. I will remind you also that the outline for this painting you saw today will also still be available in my Etsy shop, so you can give this painting a try whenever it's convenient for you. And as I always say, if you enjoyed the painting demonstration today, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side. Until next week, my friends, take care.